They always told me I was too emotional to handle family business, too soft, too sensitive, too much like my mother, as if that were an insult. My name is Evelyn Cross, and when I was a child, I was told that emotions were a weakness, that legacy mattered more than honesty, and that asking questions would only bring shame to the Cross family name. I didn't know back then what they were trying to keep hidden, only that my father, Benjamin Cross, had died when I was 9 and that his brother, Uncle Dean, stepped in to run the family lumber company after his death. My mother, Claire, was quietly pushed to the side. We were given a monthly living allowance and told that my father's shares were being held in trust until I turned 25. Growing up, I thought that made sense. I assumed that someday it would all come back to me. But when I turned 25, I received a letter, not from a lawyer, not from the company, but from Uncle Dean's assistant. It said that due to restructuring and financial downturns, the trust no longer held any value. No explanation. No meeting. No formal review. I was stunned. I reached out to our old family lawyer only to find that he had retired and now lived in a small coastal town. I drove 8 hours to speak with him in person. He was frail, but when I said my name, he blinked like he'd seen a ghost. "Your father was smart," he said. "He set everything up for you." But something changed after he died. I was pushed out. "You were supposed to inherit 33% of Cross Timber and Milling." That night, I went home and started going through every document my mother had kept: old tax records, letters, court filings. I found the original trust paperwork and compared it with the letter I received. The signatures didn't match. The trust had been amended when I was 11, 2 years after my father's death, to remove me and transfer all control to Uncle Dean in the event of extended financial hardship. But the clause was never in the original version. It had been inserted later. And the notary stamp used on the amended version didn't exist in our state until 3 years after the date listed. It was a forged amendment. I knew I couldn't confront Dean directly. He was careful, surrounded by lawyers, and deeply entrenched in the community. So I did what no one expected. I got a job at a competing lumber company in the next state over, working in compliance and logistics. I learned the industry inside out, and within a year, I had discovered several irregularities tied to Cross Timber. They were over-reporting harvest volumes on public land and underpaying royalties to the state. It was a quiet kind of fraud, the kind that gets buried in dense spreadsheets. I anonymously sent the evidence to the State Environmental Board. A formal investigation was launched. Meanwhile, I used a separate alias to begin corresponding with one of Dean's senior accountants, pretending to be an investment blogger researching mid-sized timber firms. He loved to brag. Over months, he revealed how Dean funneled profits into personal shell companies, how he wrote off luxury expenses as equipment maintenance, and how he had moved most of the company's assets into trusts under his children's names, shielding them from both taxes and lawsuits. Once I had enough, I filed a whistleblower complaint with the SEC, attaching a full report including the forged trust amendment, Dean's asset transfers, and the timber violations. But I wasn't finished. I held a press conference on the day of my 27th birthday, standing on the courthouse steps with my mother beside me. I told the world how my father's legacy had been stolen by the very man who promised to protect it. The media ate it up. Heir to Cross Timber exposes uncle in multi-million-dollar fraud. Dean tried to claim I was unstable, that I'd been manipulated by outside interests. But the evidence crushed every lie. His assets were frozen. His son's trusts were seized. The state revoked Cross Timber's permits pending further investigation. The company crumbled. I used part of the settlement I received to rebuild it under a new name, Clairwood Industries, in honor of my mother. We operate ethically, sustainably, and transparently. I kept the same office my father once used. I sit at his desk every morning and whisper, "We're back." Some legacies are stolen. Others are rebuilt. Mine was born in silence and remade in fire. If you believe that the truth can burn down a lie and grow something stronger from the ashes, hit like and subscribe. We bring you real feeling stories every day, where justice isn't loud until it needs to be.